Good morning. Rise and shine, my friends. Today is Wednesday, March 15th, and this is Wake Up with KERA News. I'm Catherine Hobbs. Thank you so much for starting your morning with me. Well, we're hitting the 90s today, folks, and hopefully our low of 69 degrees will carry us through most of the day because I am not ready to be slapped in the face with the Texas summer quite yet. Speaking of summer, do you have any travel planned? I'll be mostly staying local and hosting friends who come to visit me, but I will be taking a trip of my own this winter. Whether you're staying local or venturing beyond the DFW, there's a Japanese practice that can help you become a more mindful traveler. More on that in a minute, but first, let's get you the news you need to start your day. Interim Dallas City Manager Kim Tolbert will review the discipline handed down to 4 police officers caught on camera mocking a disabled veteran at a Deep Ellum pizzeria after he urinated on himself. Dallas Community Police Oversight Board Chair John Mark Davidson told board members Tuesday their governing office requested Tolbert decide whether a written reprimand and sensitivity training were enough punishment for the officers who mocked Donnell Lane. Tolbert has been traveling and dealing with taking over for the former city manager, so the board won't get her findings for another 2 weeks when she returns and discusses the case with Dallas Police Chief Eddie Garcia. Texas lawmakers are getting an update on the steps higher education leaders are taking to implement a state law that bans diversity, equity, and inclusion offices at public universities and colleges. The Republican-backed Senate Bill 17 took effect in January. The Texas Senate Subcommittee on Higher Education is also hearing testimony on free speech concerns about anti-Semitism on college campuses. Dade Phelan is in the toughest fight of his political career. Later this month, he could become the first Texas House Speaker in more than half a century to lose a primary. Houston Public Media's Andrew Schneider examines the potential implications for House District 21 and for Texas if Phelan loses the GOP primary runoff to challenger David Covey.
Dade Phelan is the first House Speaker from East Texas, away from the state's main urban centers.
He's brought a lot of money to the ports in this area.
I meet County Commissioner Johnny Trahan on Green Avenue in the city of Orange on a sunny Friday.
And from our district point of view, when we go meet with different agencies, they're aware that our representative is a speaker, and that opens doors for us and at least gets us heard.
And Trahan says it's made a huge difference in everything from emergency aid to business investment. Still, Trahan's experience is far from universal. David Lipko was recently a precinct chair in the Orange County Republican Party. He's since moved to Conroe, but he still sometimes attends party meetings in Orange.
At the time I was involved in the Republican Party for like about a year and a half, 2-year period. He never made any appearances, which I thought was kind of disappointing.
Lipko feels that Speaker Phelan has failed his constituents and the state on several issues. For one, he says, Phelan effectively blocked Governor Greg Abbott's version of school vouchers from making it to the House floor last year. James Nelson teaches political science at Lamar University in Beaumont.
The biggest issue, if you had to nail it down to one, in terms of what immediately would change in the legislature, is school choice and school vouchers. Governor Abbott has come out and said that they're within 2 votes being able to pass that.
There's little doubt that a vote for Phelan's opponent would make House passage of school vouchers more likely. That opponent is David Covey, a former chair of the Orange County Republican Party. Neither Covey nor Phelan agreed to speak on the air for this story. Covey, however, did provide written answers to a series of questions. Asked about whether his prospective constituents would be able to afford private school with vouchers, Covey said, quote, "The money that parents would receive for their children's education could be put towards private school or purchasing homeschool materials, or parents could choose to keep their children in public school. The key is giving parents a choice." But Commissioner Trahan, who's a conservative Republican, worries about what it means for his constituents.
It's going to take someone who's already sending their kids to private school and give them an extra $8,000. And then there's going to be a lot of cottage homeschool industry that gets a lot of money. And there's going to be a lot of charter schools that get a lot of money. And it is going to end up crippling some of the public schools here in Texas if we're not careful.
Brandon Rottinghouse, who teaches political science at the University of Houston, says that a Covey win would be a big step towards electing a much more conservative House Speaker. Phelan's relationship with Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick has been notoriously rocky.
If it's the case that we see a Speaker of the House who's more conservative, who's more aligned with Dan Patrick, then effectively you're going to see a lot more of a smooth relationship, and that means probably much more conservative legislation.
David Lipko says it's critical that the district's Republicans choose Covey. One issue where Lipko would especially like to see a change is to make sure the next Speaker doesn't appoint Democrats to chair House committees. It's worth remembering that appointing opposition party members as committee chairs has been a tradition in both houses of the Texas legislature for generations. It's also worth noting that Phelan isn't a liberal by any measure. He's helped pass a wide range of conservative priorities, from effectively outlawing abortion to lifting virtually all limits on gun ownership. Covey has deep ties to Orange County, but Phelan has even deeper ties to Jefferson. His family has lived there, in Beaumont, for at least 5 generations, and he'll need Beaumont voters to show up this month if he's going to beat Covey.
That was Houston Public Media's Andrew Schneider. Well, the WNBA season is officially underway. The Dallas Wings play their first game tonight at 7 against the Chicago Sky. The Japanese practice of forest bathing has made its way to the West, where folks are using it as a means to travel more mindfully. The physiological and psychological exercise combines both mindful hiking with meditation to offer an eco-antidote to the tech boom burnout. Travelers are using it as a way to connect with the natural world and spend time away from tourist-heavy areas. If you're staying local this summer, it's equally as wonderful, and I'd probably argue more important, to bond with nature in your own backyard. Let me know if you give it a try. I'd love to hear about your experience. The Dallas is Lit Literary Festival is back in Oak Cliff for the 2nd year in a row. All this week, you can find conversations with authors, spooky stories, book fairs, and so much more. For more events in North Texas, check out kera.org/calendar. Thank you so much for starting your day with me today. I'm so glad you take a few minutes to listen each morning. Be sure to subscribe to the Wake Up with KERA newsletter at keranews.org and check us out on Instagram and Threads at KERATX. I'm Catherine Hobbs. We'll chat again tomorrow.